Which NFL players will lead the NFL in passing yards, receptions, sacks, and more? These are my predictions for every stat leader this 2022 NFL season. Let me know your predictions for every stat in the comment section below. Gronk, spike that like button, and let's get underway predicting every single statistic for this 2022 NFL season. Let's begin with defense. We only have two statistics that I can actually predict. I'm not going to try to predict tackles. That's just way too unpredictable. Interceptions is a very tricky statistic to predict. It's very fluky, but there are a few players every season that do tend to gather quite a few interceptions. Trayvon Diggs had himself a very special 2021, but the player that finished in second in interceptions has been an absolute ball magnet for the past 3+ seasons. He's changing teams, and now he's about to bolt up in Los Angeles. I'm talking about J.C. Jackson. As long as J.C. Jackson is healthy this year, which he is dealing with a minor injury right now, I do believe that J.C. Jackson, Mr. INT, just cover Jackson, will lead the NFL in interceptions. I think he's in a perfect spot to do so. In a defense that won't command him to play as much man coverage, I think that allows JC to keep his eyes on the quarterback, be able to decipher what a receiver's going to do, where a quarterback's going to go with the ball, and for him to break on the football. We already know how amazing JC is down the field, intercepting 50-50 balls, and just making ridiculous grabs for a defensive back that we rarely see. He probably has the best ball skills in the game at cornerback, and with the ability to thrive off of an epic pass rush in front of him with Khalil Mack, with Joey Bosa, I do believe that will help J.C. Jackson gather more picks in 2022. So as long as this man is healthy, I do believe that Jackson will make an impact similar to Asante Samuel and Ty Law. Once they left New England, they also had a lot of success intercepting passes. I believe JC does that in 2022. I'm going to go with Nick Bosa to lead the NFL in sacks this season. I love the defensive line of the 49ers. I think a potential breakout for Javon Kinlaw will help disrupt opposing offensive lines, leaving better matchups for Nick Bosa. He was really, really good last year at sacking opposing quarterbacks. I think with TJ Watt potentially not having a historic season, it could allow Nick Bosa to squeeze in there to take the top spot. I believe it's his year. Rave reviews out of camp, another year removed from injury. This is going to be a dominant D-line, a dominant front seven, and a dominant defense that I believe will have plenty opportunity to sack quarterbacks with leads this year. Running the football to chew out the clock, they will count on their defense to get to the quarterback, to make plays, and to win games. I've got Nick Bosa leading the NFL in sacks. Moving to the offensive side of the football, let's begin with the running backs or the rushers. Technically, it doesn't have to be a running back. Beginning with rushing yards, I've got to go with Jonathan Taylor here. It's kind of the easy answer. But if I want to be right, and I want to give you a good, accurate prediction, I do believe Jonathan Taylor should be favored without a doubt to lead the NFL in rushing yards. When I look at the landscape of the NFL, there's just not many other running backs that have the rushing upside of Jonathan Taylor. You look at very talented runners like Derrick Henry coming off of an injury, worse offensive line, worse offense in general, worse team in general. That is probably going to hinder him to lead the NFL in rushing yards. But you never know. He is the Hulk. He could do it. Another guy that could potentially lead the NFL in rushing is Nick Chubb. But we always know that Nick Chubb is going to get carries taken away from him by Kareem Hunt. Plus, his quarterback situation isn't the best, despite having a great scheme for his ability and a very good offensive line. There are other phenomenal running backs like Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, but all of these guys catch the football just as much as they run the football. So I just don't see them being able to outdo and outgain Jonathan Taylor simply on the ground. There are many options that you could go with in terms of yards from scrimmage. Now that's a different conversation. But in terms of rushing yards, I think Jonathan Taylor should pretty soundly get this. He's on a good offense. He's going to get 20 plus carries a game. He doesn't have a top-notch quarterback. He does have a better quarterback this year. He does have a good offensive line. He does have a good offensive coordinator. There's a lot of things that just work in his favor to lead the NFL in rushing, even if they give Nyheim Hines more touches this year. When it comes to rushing touchdowns, it's a lot different from rushing yards. Rushing yards to me speaks more towards the individual talent of the running back and the workload that he receives on the ground. Rushing touchdowns is more a consequence of team and opportunity and offensive strength. The opportunity to get touches in the red zone and how good is your offense. You could easily go with Jonathan Taylor here, as he's probably the favorite to lead the NFL in rushing touchdowns, as he led the NFL in touchdowns last year as well, tied with Austin Eckler. Eckler had quite a few through the air. I do not see Eckler repeating his performance with his touchdowns this year, and I want to give you a different name other than Jonathan Taylor. So give me Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, as a member of the Bengals, went off last year when it came to rushing touchdowns. He regularly gets the work in the red zone, at the goal line. He's very good at finding that little crease to be able to score that touchdown. He's excellent in short yardage. He's got an upgrade on the offensive line. His offense is going to have more rapport, more chemistry. It's going to be clicking on all cylinders from day one with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. And even if Joe Mixon isn't running the ball as much this year, they're going to give him the ball at the goal line with all the opportunity that this awesome offense will have. So Joe Mixon feels like a top dog to lead the NFL in rushing touchdowns this year. Now let's discuss the receivers. Who will lead the NFL in catches, in receptions? And I'm going to say that for whatever reason, this guy isn't being brought up enough to lead the NFL in receptions. Maybe it's boring, I don't know. But Cooper Kupp is probably going to lead the NFL in receptions. I understand that you might want to go with a flashier name, a younger player, whatever. But Cooper Kupp is likely going to not replicate last season's success, but have a ton of success nonetheless. He doesn't have to replicate 145 catches or whatever it was last year for him to lead the NFL in receptions. He simply has to catch like 130, 125 even, and he'll likely lead the NFL in receptions this year. I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp. Matthew Stafford doesn't have many other options to throw the ball to right now. Van Jefferson, kind of injured entering the season. Allen Robinson, while I like the addition to the offense, he's the number 2. He's a new addition. There's not the same rapport there. There's no OBJ right now. There's no Robert Woods. Tyler Higbee's there, sure, but Cooper Kupp is still going to be spammed with targets, and there is no coach like Sean McVay who is better at just getting Cooper Kupp in situations to win one-on-one, to thrive in open space, to get easy receptions. Cooper Kupp should easily catch 120 passes this year, and that gives him a great opportunity with Matthew Stafford, who just loves to feed him the rock, to lead the NFL in catches. I promise you, I'm not going to pick Cooper Kupp to win the Triple Crown this year. I'm not going to pick him to lead the NFL in receiving yards, although he will be up there. I promise you, he will be up there as long as he is healthy. I'm going to go with another guy that's getting a ton of buzz this offseason, and I am truly buying into the ascension this year as the NFL's best receiver, and that guy is Justin Jefferson. I'm picking Justin Jefferson to lead the NFL in receiving yards. I believe that Justin Jefferson will have about 1,800 to 1,900 receiving yards this year. And that is a very big number, but I am going to boldly claim that Justin Jefferson will have an all-time receiver season this year. It's not going to come in the way of Cooper Kupp, where he was spammed with targets. It's going to be a little bit more efficient than that. He's not going to quite get there in terms of leading the NFL in catches, but he's going to be second or third. And he's going to be effective down the field, as well as more involved closer to the line of scrimmage, thanks to the new scheme of Kevin O'Connell, thanks to the new pace of the Vikings offense. This is an offense that's going to open up. It's going to play more modern ball. It's going to pass the ball on early downs more often, which allows Justin Jefferson to take over games more regularly, more consistently, and basically, this guy is unstoppable. I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson to lead the NFL in receiving yards. Receiving touchdowns was a really difficult pick. I feel like you could go with Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, but I'm going to go with a little bit of a wild card pick here, and I'm going to take Mark Andrews, tight end of the Baltimore Ravens. Mark Andrews has seen multiple seasons of pretty good touchdown numbers. Last year, he had a pretty darn good season in terms of yards, catches, and touchdowns, and had a very low-key, all-time tight end season. I feel like with Lamar Jackson back and healthy, an improved offensive line, no Marquise Brown, I do think that Mark Andrews is going to see a ton of red zone targets, and I do believe that without J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, potentially, or even if they're just hurt to begin the year or whatever the case is, I do think that Lamar is going to be forced to pass the ball more, and I do believe that Lamar is going to look for his main man, Mark Andrews, in the biggest, most important space on a football field, which is the red zone. I think Mark Andrews is incredible in contested catch situations. He has a great wingspan. He's got great body control to be able to contort his body and make those catches one-on-one, in tight windows, in double coverage. I think Mark Andrews is probably the top tight end that could actually lead the NFL in touchdowns this year. So why not? Give me a wild card pick in Mark Andrews, tight end of the Ravens. Now let's finish off with the quarterback position, the passers, the passing yards statistic. I'm going to go with a repeat. I'm taking Tom Brady to lead the NFL in passing yards. And it's quite simply because I think that Tom Brady is going to have to throw the ball a lot because this offense demands him to throw the ball a lot. This team runs through Tom Brady. The offense runs through Tom Brady. This is not a very run-heavy scheme. Tom Brady did not come back to pro football to hand the ball off to Leonard Fournette or anybody else. He came back to the NFL to throw the ball, to add to his all-time record book and to be able to have some fun. And I think that means that Tom Brady is going to throw the ball. I understand that his defense might be better this year and he won't have to be in these tight games at the end to be able to pull it off. You never know, though. That could happen. But I just believe that Tom Brady is going to throw from the beginning to the end of the game, no matter the state of the game. And that's why I pick him to lead the NFL in passing yards. He doesn't need to be trailing to throw for yardage. He can be up in a game. He could be down in a game. He could be tied in a game. It could be the start of the game, and the Bucs are going to pass the ball. They're going to have a lot of spread formations, a lot of spread sets. They've got a ton of receivers, a ton of targets. They still got a strong offensive line. Byron Leftwich loves to call pass plays, and Tom Brady will audible it into more pass plays than anybody else. I'm taking Brady to lead the NFL in yards. The quarterback that will lead the NFL in passing touchdowns, I'm going with Justin Herbert to lead the NFL in passing touchdowns. I'm going with Herbert because I do not believe that Eckler will be able to repeat his 20 touchdown overall performance that he saw last year. I do think that they're going to lean a little bit more pass heavy. When you think about the Chargers, you think about a team that I think is going to score a ton of points. They're a great offense, but it's going to be on the arm of Herbert to be able to make plays. He's got a ton of targets that are big, right? He's got Mike Williams, big frame, big receiver, can go up and get it. He's a jump ball guy. Keenan Allen is actually a bigger receiver, despite, you know, his reputation as a route runner. He's a bigger framed receiver and good in the red zone. Josh Palmer is the same. He's about 6'3". You know, he's got a good frame to him. He's good in that area as well. So I could see Gerald Everett getting touchdowns. I could see him dumping it to Austin Eckler for touchdowns. I do think this offense is going to lean on Justin Herbert once they enter the 10, 5-yard line, just as Tom Brady is leaned on with the Bucs. Instead of running the ball, they would rather pass it once they get there, and I feel like Justin Herbert is going to be somebody that's going to be leaned on for his team to put the ball in the end zone. The defense will be better. They'll give them short fields, which will lead to more points. I think Herbert is going to throw for 40-plus touchdowns this year and lead the NFL in passing touchdowns. Those are the league leaders for 2022, at least in my opinion. Those are my predictions. Let me know yours in the comment section below. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. Gronk, spike the like button. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.